2023 is the centenary year of Swarajist Party. They played a vital role in Indian national movement. Let's take a look at their role in national movement. Background for the formation of Swarajist Party. From the launch of non-cooperation movement by Khilafat Committee on 31st August 1920, it had witnessed an unprecedented popular upsurge. But the violent incident occurred at Chauri Chaura on 5th February 1922 prompted Gandhi to withdraw the movement. In Chauri Chaura, a crowd torched the police station with policemen inside, and then non-cooperation movement was officially called off by Congress Committee on 12th February 1922. Gandhi was arrested in March 1922 and sentenced to 6 years in jail. After that, there was disintegration and disorganization among national leaders. That was the passive phase of the movement. One section led by Siya Das, Motilal Nehru and Ajmal Khan wanted an end to the boycott of legislative councils so that the nationalists could enter them to expose the basic weakness of these assemblies and use this council as a platform of political struggle. Those who were advocating entry into legislative councils came to be known as the Swarajists, while the other school of thought came to be known as the No Changers. C. Rajagopalachari, Vallabhbhai Patel, Rajendra Prasad and M. A. Ansari were the prominent leaders of that school of thought. The No Changers opposed council entry, advocated concentration of constructive work and continuation of boycott and non-cooperation. Swarajists had their own reason for advocating the entry into the councils. They wanted to use the legislative assemblies as part of their struggle against imperialism. They used this method for constructive criticism to make people aware and make them politically active during the period of political vacuum. They took forward the national demand of framing a new constitution. They believed that it would be a new front against the Britishers and it would not dilute the non-cooperation movement. On the other hand, No Changers argued that parliamentary work would lead to neglect of constructive work, loss of revolutionary zeal, and to political corruption. Constructive work would prepare everyone for the next phase of civil disobedience. The difference over the question of council entry between the two schools of thought resulted in the defeat of Swaraj's proposal of ending or mending the councils at the Gaya session of the Congress in December 1922. Siya Das and Motilal Nehru resigned from the presidentship and secretaryship respectively of the Congress and announced the formation of Congress Khilafat Swarajya Party or simply Swarajist Party. And then 1st January 1923, Swarajist Party was formed with Siya Das as the president and Motilal Nehru as one of the secretaries. Even though both the schools are in different parties, they wanted to avoid a split that happened in 1907 and kept in touch with Gandhi, who was in jail. Both sides also realized the significance of putting up a united front together and mass movement to force the government to introduce reforms. Hence, compromise was reached at a meeting in Delhi in September 1923. The Swarajists were allowed to contest election as a group within the Congress. The Swarajists accepted the Congress program with only one difference, that they would join legislative councils. The elections to the newly constituted Central Legislative Assembly and to the provincial assemblies were to be held in November 1923. In the election manifesto of Swarajists in 1923, they took a strong anti-imperialist line. They put forward the following points. The guiding motive of the British in governing India lay in selfish interest of their own country. The so-called reforms were only a blind to further the said interest, and real objective being to continue exploitation of the unlimited resources of our country. The Swarajists would present the nationalist demand of self-government in councils. If this demand was rejected, they would adopt a policy of uniform, continuous and consistent obstruction within the councils to make the governance through council impossible. Councils would thus be wrecked from within by creating deadlocks on every measure. And in the November 1923 election, the Swarajists had managed to win 42 out of the 141 elected seats and a clear majority in the Provincial Assembly of Central Provinces. In legislature, in cooperation with the liberals and the independents like Jinnah and Malavia, they won a majority. There was a government crackdown on revolutionary terrorists and the Swarajists towards the end of 1924. This angered Gandhi and he expressed his solidarity with the Swarajists by surrendering to their wishes. Both sides came to an agreement in 1924 at the Belgaum session that the Swarajists would work in the councils as an integral part of the Congress. Swarajists further split into communal and responsivist, non-responsivist line. The government strategy of dividing the Swarajists, the more militant from the moderate, the Hindus from the Muslims, was successful. They lost support of many Muslims when the party did not support the tenants' cause against the Zamindars in Bengal. Most of the tenants were Muslims. Communal interest also entered the party. The death of Siyadas in 1925 weakened it further. The responsivists among Swarajists were Lala Lajpat Rai, Madan Mohan Malavia, and N.C. Kelkar. They advocated cooperation with the government and holding of office wherever possible. Besides, they also wanted to protect the so-called Hindu interest. Whereas the non-responsivists like Motilal Nehru advocated withdrawal from legislature. The communal elements accused non-responsivists who did not favor joining the council of being anti-Hindu, even as Muslim communalists called the Swarajists anti-Muslim. Thus, the main leadership of Swarajist Party reiterated faith in mass civil disobedience and withdrew from legislature in March 1926, while another section of Swarajists went into the 1926 election as the party in disarray. But they did not fare well on the whole. They won 40 seats in the centre and some seats in the Madras, but were rooted in the United Province, the Central Province and Punjab. In 1930, the Swarajists finally walked out as a result of the Lahore Congress resolution on Purna Swaraj and the beginning of civil disobedience movement. Their achievements are the following. They agitated through powerful speeches on self-government, civil liberties and industrialization. Vithalbhai Patel was elected as Speaker of Central Legislative Assembly in 1925. A noteworthy achievement was a defeat of the Public Safety Bill in 1928, which was aimed at empowering the government to deport undesirable and subversive foreigners. By their activities, they filled the political vacuum occurred after the withdrawal of non-cooperation movement. They exposed the hollowness of the Mondego-Chelmsford reform of 1919. They did excellent work in the field of education, health, sanitation, anti-untouchability and khadi promotion. They outvoted the government several times. They had some drawbacks too. The Swarajists lacked a policy to coordinate their militancy inside legislatures with the mass struggle outside. They relied totally on newspaper reporting to communicate with the public. They could not carry on with their coalition partners very far because of conflicting ideas. They failed to support the peasants' cause in Bengal and lost support among Muslim members who were pro-peasant. Despite the obstructions and changing socio-political climate, Swarajists managed to achieve and strengthen their hold for some time. That also gave a momentum to the coming nationalist movement, and they played a significant role in legislation. Thank you.